Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the pod.
Welcome back.
My name is Naomi.
And my name is 𝚑𝚘𝚡. And today we're talking about Climax. The movie, nothing else.
Correct. You are correct.
This is a 2018 psychological horror written with heavy air quotes and directed by Gaspar Noé. It follows a dance troupe who is rehearsing in an abandoned school. After they finish, they throw a party and someone spikes the sangria with LSD. Chaos ensues.
Indeed. And on Google, this is actually listed as a musical drama, which is very, very funny.
Yeah, very funny. Whoever decided to write that down has jokes.
They got the jokes, indeed.
We saw this movie a couple weeks ago. I think Naomi saw it first, and then maybe
I watched it like probably like 3 or 4 months ago, and I've watched it a lot of times since then.
Yeah, I watched it while playing balloons the first time, which probably wasn't the best decision, but the second time I did pay attention, so I know what I'm talking about.
True.
It's really good. We enjoyed it. We're going to be talking about like the technical and little artsy elements of it because, you know, this movie,
It's special.
it's special.
And it needs to be talked about. And also, we're going to have it all sectioned off with timestamps in the description, and they should show up on the video this time, but yeah.
So let's get into it. This movie, its casting process, we're going to start there. It's casting and pre-production and all of that. It took a month from when it was conceived by Gaspar Noé to when they started filming, which stresses me out so much because every single idea I've had, I've sat on for like months and months debating and fixing. So 1 month to film is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Its casting was really interesting because there's only 2 people in this movie who have ever acted before.
Wait, who is it besides 𝚑𝚑𝚡𝚒𝚘𝚘𝚑?
I forgot her name. I can pull up the Wikipedia
Was it
right
one of the
now.
girlies?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was really impressive that most of these people hadn't acted before, especially because of the like sheer amount of like very long shots where you would have to plan so much to get everyone in their places and doing their own thing. And everyone did such a great job. I was super impressed by everyone. And I think some people have gone on to do other stuff after this that hadn't acted before, which is also really cool.
The 2 people who have acted before, the 2 actors, are 𝚑𝚑𝚘𝚑𝚗 and some European name that I can't pronounce.
Try.
𝚂𝚘𝚘𝚒𝚘𝚑.
Who did she play?
This girl?
Oh, okay. So Lou, the girl who played Lou.
Yeah.
She does look familiar, kind of. But yeah, those 2 have acted before.
Everyone
were great.
else has not. Oh, she's going to be in Dune Part 2.
No way.
No way.
Fire.
Yeah, everyone else is just a dancer that Gaspar found dancing.
Yeah, he recruited people based on like their dancing talent, which is so cool. I love when people like introduce people to acting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like it's not never mind. I'm not gonna do my hot takes on acting right now in this episode.
Yeah, when people like cast from alternative places, it's so cool. Like the Safdie Bros older casting was really cool, and then also American Honey, where they cast all these random people. Like it's so fun to get people who are not so like actor core, I guess.
Yeah. And if you're doing a movie like this where it's not very dialogue heavy and it's very much focused on dancing, I think it makes total sense to do this. And with movies like I, Tonya and stuff like that, I get that you want to have like a big name like representing this person who is actually alive, but it just makes more sense to hire someone who can actually do the stuff that you're making a movie about. Like, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
The other hot take, such as with like The Whale recently, casting Brendan Fraser and doing all this VFX and putting all this makeup on him. Like, just cast someone who like already looks similar to the character you want.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. I think just like hire the person you actually like need.
Yeah,
for
hire the
role.
person you need for a role, not like a big name.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
and I think you can still gain success that way. The Safdie Bros so definitely proved that.
Yeah,
and Gaspar as well. But yeah,
so this
very
movie,
great cast.
This movie has an incredible cast. It was cast mostly from like ballrooms and these individual dancers.
It shows.
Yeah, it
Because
shows.
their
It shows.
dance style is like very cool, very similar to ballroom stuff. I love it.
I think it was late 2017. It says when he first like went to this Vogue ballroom and started doing all this stuff. So my personal theory,
imagine
is
you
that
see Gaspar at the ballroom.
yeah,
God.
my personal theory is that Gaspar had no idea what gay people were until he went to this ballroom.
He
and was
accidentally
like,
went there.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is crazy. I need to make a movie. This is revolutionary. Everyone needs to know. Like,
Everyone
gay
needs to know gay people. It's crazy.
Honestly insane. Yeah, that's my personal theory. I've never seen a single movie of his other than this, so I'm going to keep it that way so I can stay with this theory. My favorite casting thing that this movie does, I think, is casting trans people to play cis people's roles. I just think it's just such a fun role reversal, and it's so like... I have no idea how to describe it. It's just really funny.
I read something from him where someone asked him about casting Claude as Emmanuel, and he said that like it just seemed like she could play a mother really well and stuff like that, and I just think that's how it should be. Like, let them be the mother.
Yeah, because she is mother to me.
Yeah,
she is my mother.
Who do you think seemed like a leader like in the cast? I think Sophia Boutella still did. Like, she seemed like the main character, I guess.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. Like, she's the main character, but like for the last 30 minutes of the movie, she's just not in it.
Yeah, I think it's because that long sequence, and that's like probably the best part of the movie in my opinion.
Yeah.
That long sequence where she's walking up and down the hallways, but we'll talk more about that. But yeah, I think she definitely does come off as a leader type of the group, as well as Emmanuel, played by Claude. I don't remember her last name, but she's
Who's
really
that?
cool. The girl who plays the mom of Tito.
Yeah, mother.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah, this movie is really fun. I think it's time to get more into the writing of it, into like the scene to scene structure of it, because I have some words about it, and it's kind of positive, believe it or not.
Yeah, I didn't know if you would love or absolutely hate this movie. It's either way for everyone.
Yeah, so this movie is no wonder in like writing. Like, it's not some grand thing, and it's not really trying
not
to
a
be.
character study. It's not trying to be at all.
Yeah, it's just like it's a little romp. I wouldn't call it fun, and like just an interesting anecdote about this group of people. The only big problem that I have with like how this movie like is written, and I think it is writing for it, there's this opening dance number, and then like this big chunk of dialogue scenes where it just cuts back and forth between different characters having different conversations, and it is the worst part of this movie.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's still interesting and very funny to watch.
I think me being American definitely sullies the experience a little bit, because I can't just like listen to them talk. I have to read what they're saying, and I think if these were like English speakers, it probably would appeal to me more. But I mean, even so, it's just so crazy to go from that to everything else in the movie that is just so action packed.
Well, yeah,
and,
because
like,
directly
interesting.
after that scene, is there another dance scene before everything just goes crazy?
Yeah,
or
they have
no?
like the dance circle, and then everyone goes crazy.
Yeah, okay, so that one, and then it just goes completely crazy. I don't think that part was boring at all to me. I liked their dialogue. I think it like made sense for him to do that a little bit. The first time I watched it, I didn't like it. I'll say that. But the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it, because I think it like gives us more about these characters and why they do the crazy stuff that they do in the next act. And also before that, they have the scene where they're all introducing themselves on the TV.
I appreciate it, and I understand why it's there and like what it accomplishes in the story. But I think Gaspar didn't write a single line of dialogue for this movie. Every like line was improvised. He came up with like the structure
Well, say,
of it.
are you guessing this, or did you look this up?
No, I looked this up.
Okay.
And so I think in this, it really shows. I think it just could have been way tighter and way more concise. It did not need to be this long, but because he let these like non-actors just kind of ramble for a little bit, I feel like it kind of shows. I think it should have been a bit like tighter and like, a bit more scripted.
That's like my first review of this movie I wrote was the same thing. Like I didn't care about the Cyborg and like Rocco dialogue, the two cousins or whatever, because they had like most of the screen time during that part. I don't know. It grows on me every time, honestly.
Like I said, I understand what it's doing. It's doing a lot of setup for everything that happens in the rest of the movie, and it's interesting like when seen as that, but when just looking at that, I don't think that bit is an interesting piece. I think it should have been like scripted.
I think it is, because like there's those girls who are like, I'm gonna beat those girls up tonight, and like then they do that but on a whole like elevated level.
Well, no, like that's funny, but I think it should have been tighter. Like I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. That's my main problem with it.
The length.
Yeah.
What did you think of the actual opening scene where they were on the TV?
Once again, I don't know. I like that one better.
Yeah, that part was great. I think I like that they decided to do that. I think it makes sense for like a dance troupe to have like a little video like that. I don't know.
Yeah. And then speaking of how all of this dialogue sets up what happens later is a 42-minute oneer in quotations. There's cuts, obviously. But it's this 42-minute scene where they are just tripping on LSD and they make some pretty insane decisions, and all of the dialogue is like setting all this up. It's setting up all these little conflicts and like character motivations, and it all pays off in the worst ways possible usually. Mm-hmm. In one of the dialogue scenes, this guy is talking about how he wants to smash every single girl at the party, and it drags on for a long time, and he goes into gratuitous detail about how he wants to smash everyone. But then at the end of the movie, there is payoff to that. You could say everyone thinks mother is a bad mom for having her kid at this party. It pays off, not in a very happy way. The kid dies. Another little story thing that's set up is the twink. You know who I'm talking about. I hope everyone listening knows who I'm talking about. Uh-huh. The twink talking to daddy about how he wants to be a slut.
I love how his name is just daddy.
Like, yeah, his name is just daddy. It's hilarious.
Just what it is.
But yeah, the twink talking to daddy about that, and then at the end of the movie, they sleep together.
Well, do they, or is it just like I don't think
implied.
They do.
I think it's implied
because they were both like fully clothed and like just laying together, and I don't think daddy would, honestly.
Well, I mean, daddy was also on LSD, so
that's true. Oh my god!
Could have happened.
Stop the scene where he's like whipping his hair around.
Oh my god! Yeah,
Stop.
Like halfway through the movie, daddy puts on a wig, and it is wig. And there was probably more setup that I missed for the ranch boys and the Nazi, but
no, there's not.
Oh, they just felt like doing that?
Yeah, they just felt like doing that.
Yeah, basically there's like a couple characters who take their shirts off and start rubbing something over them, and I have decided that they were rubbing ranch all over themselves.
Well, no, it was one of the girls that put it on them.
Well, yeah, but then they started doing it.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
And then there's this one guy who just like has a buzz. He's a white dude with a buzz cut, and I think
they draw a Nazi symbol.
They draw a Nazi symbol on his forehead
with lipstick.
And I think that probably is all of the setup.
Yeah.
For that bit,
it's the buzz cut.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
It's really funny. But yeah, I think that part of the writing is really funny because it's like, oh, everything I heard just got paid off. I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it, but it did certainly pay off. So yeah, that's all I have for the writing. I think it's really fun. I think it is definitely just a funny concept that probably popped into Gaspar's brain one day and said, let's do it.
Did you look up if this was actually a true story or not? Because I did, and I couldn't find like anything.
The Wikipedia at least says that it is based off of a story where some dancers got their LSD spiked in the 90s.
Their LSD?
Or their sangria spiked with LSD. And nothing else in the movie is true.
Oh, okay.
All of that is made up.
I thought it was the 90s.
Yeah, it is the 90s.
Oh, okay.
But everything that like the character moments and like the actions are all made up.
Well, yeah, because how could you like get that dialogue from like
yeah,
a random event that happened?
If that happened to me, if anything like this happened to me personally, lips sealed. I'm not telling
I would never speak about this again.
Next up, I want to talk about the camera in this movie because it plays like one of the biggest roles out of any movie's camera. You see, sometimes I hear pretentious video essay people talking about like, oh my god, the camera work in this movie was so good. It felt like there was like the camera was its own character. And me personally, I've only ever felt that is true for Wes Anderson. Sorry. But
his camera is a character?
Yeah, or not
No.
a character, but it has a lot of character.
I guess.
I don't think any camera can really be a character, but I think it can have a lot of character.
What if it's in first person?
Well, that's just a stupid decision that you shouldn't have done.
At Gaspar Noé.
Yeah. At Gaspar Noé.
Well, no, when she scoops the sangria, she has first person.
That's not first person.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
She's looking down in her hand.
No, that's a bird's eye. We're not meant to understand that she's walking all that distance with her head cranked down to the bottom.
Okay, sure. Whatever. Go.
Isn't that how the big long shot starts?
I think so. That slays. That's the
Slay.
sleigh
That's
opening.
Slay. But yeah, so the camera in this movie, it really just mirrors the action of all the characters and like what's happening to them very well. Like I think better than most other movie cameras do. Like in the beginning when it does the big dance sequence, it's like having all these smooth movements and all these planned sequences so that like as the dancers are dancing, we are seeing like the best bit of that little dance. And it feels so choreographed just like these dancers. And then we get to the dialogue scenes and the camera is locked off looking at the two characters who are talking in them. And it almost feels like the camera is like another person standing there, a part of the conversation. It doesn't feel like it's a camera showing you these two characters' conversations. It feels like it is a part of it, I guess, if that makes any sense. And then when we get to the very long LSD trip, the camera also mirrors that. It has all these like shaky movements. It like starts to spin around and twirl and move in all these unpredictable ways, and it really mirrors the actions of the characters. And like when there is a contortionist just in the background doing some crazy stuff, and then the camera just starts kind of also getting into that crazy mindset, it's like, oh wow, this is really unsettling. Like this camera is doing the same thing that all these characters are. This camera was spiked with LSD as well. If that makes any sense.
It does, because it's like constantly spinning, but it's not in the same way that his other movies are, where it's just like annoying to look at. In this one, I feel like it's like smooth enough to where you could still look at it and not get a headache, which is great for a Gaspar Noé movie. But I'm sure people will probably still get a headache from this movie.
Yeah, and it's also not like just a meaningless, oh, I wanted to do this. Like a cough 1917 with your goddamn entire movie oneer, quote, where there's no purpose. Like, let's be honest, girls, there was no reason. You did that so that you could win a cinematography Oscar.
This movie, if it was like an entire one shot, it would make more sense to me than the other movies that have tried to do that.
Yeah, it still wouldn't make sense, but it would make more sense than other movies.
Yes.
Like the big 42-minute oneer that we keep talking about, it makes sense.
Is that the one with 𝚑𝚑 𝚑𝚘𝚗𝚒? That's the one you're talking about?
The 42-minute oneer is just from the spiked sangria to when the cops show up.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they cut before the red scene. Like an obvious cut. No? Okay.
Well, it's an obvious cut, but we're meant to understand it as a continuous shot. There's a lot of cuts in the oneer. Obviously, you're not going to shoot for 42 minutes straight.
And that's the same with
psychotic.
all of the one-shot movies, too.
Yeah, but it's like you're meant to understand it like it is.
Okay, yeah. I just couldn't remember if it was like an obvious cut there or no. But yeah, that shot is just incredible. Like,
and the fact that they were able to do that in 15 days
is
insane.
Yeah.
That 15 days was their recording period. That's when they recorded the movie.
Yeah,
That's
that
insane.
entire movie over that amount of time is just like
Yeah, especially
out of your
and
mind.
it's like maybe if they had time to plan out like each sequence and each cut beforehand, but they didn't. Like it was mostly improvised, which is absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm. I think it does have this way of like putting you in there with the characters. I know people say that for a lot of movies, but I think this one, like, you really do feel the terror of like what is going on. Especially the first time I watched it, I had like my headphones on and it was just like dark in my room and I was just like, oh my God, this is horrifying.
Yeah, there are so many sequences where characters are just like freaking out, walking down hallways, and the camera almost feels like it's crashing into the walls with them and it's like falling over and stumbling. And it just... It feels so right.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, I think this has like some of my favorite cinematography ever. And the coloring too, very fun. Obviously the choice to shoot it in a school seems intentional, and the whole like Tito storyline, like, I don't know. I think it's a smart way to incorporate like all the fun lighting that they had in it.
I also think it's just like, I feel like that's such a perfect location because a school is so diverse because of how like they're constructed, because usually schools are like a small building and then they get an expansion and they get an expansion and it's very obvious where the expansions are, and so having all these different places is cool.
Yeah. And also I feel like schools are scary at night.
Oh, 100%.
So, yeah.
School with most of its lights off is terrifying.
Yeah, the lights flickering while the contortionist is in the background and she's coming down the stairs is so scary.
Oh my God, that's another thing about the camera that I almost forgot to mention. There are so many shots in this movie that are like subject in the front, but like they're not taking up much screen space, and then just things are happening in the background.
Yeah.
And my headcanon is that they didn't plan out any of the things that were happening in the background. They just said, all right, everyone else, you're not in this shot. Go do something in the background.
And we'll come to you eventually.
Yeah. And so like they kept just like running to the camera, like the one LSD girly. She kept just showing up in the
blonde
background.
Girl, yeah.
She's
and
hilarious.
her dancing was so funny. Her peeing
I
on the
know.
floor. I guess I'll just piss on the floor. Piss on the floor. Yeah, it's just incredible. And I think the other day you said, like, people reacting to stuff that's not on the screen, but like there's just stuff going on like in their head because they're on drugs.
Yeah, like this girl, like there's this one part where I forgot, 𝚑𝚘𝚅, she is walking down the hall back to the main dance floor, and then she starts reacting very intensely to something that's happening, and we're like, oh God, what is she seeing? Camera pulls back, and then it's just stairs, and then she walks down the stairs and starts to freak out, and it's like, oh, that's really funny. That's a really funny character moment. Or I guess maybe that's not character, maybe that's just LSD moment.
LSD moment.
Yes. LSD, more like a lesbian, because that
happens.
𝚑𝚘𝚅.
Whoa, that was so good.
Oh yeah,
guys,
𝚑𝚘𝚅,
tell me if my French accent was good there.
𝚑𝚘𝚅 and Ice Spice have a little lesbian romp.
Explain Ice Spice.
Oh yeah, sorry. So there's this one girl in the movie who I call Ice Spice.
She has the same hair silhouette as Ice Spice. Their hair is completely different textures and colors.
Texture and color. They look nothing alike in any way.
But that's just Ice Spice.
Yeah, that's Ice Spice. That's Ice Spice. Like, come on. Whenever we watch a movie, I feel like I don't actually remember the characters' names. I just assign them a trait, and that's their character for the rest of it.
She slays. She absolutely slays,
obviously.
and so does Ice Spice.
Yeah.
My favorite camera moment in this movie, and honestly just movies in general, like I think this is my favorite opening shot of all time. I love the snow with the blood in it, with the girl crawling and screaming, with the Gary Newman song playing in the background. I love it. I live for it. I breathe it. It is everything to me. And I love stuff that like does the recontextualization thing at the end, and we know what happens in the end after all that crazy stuff happens. But I don't know. I feel like it can be annoying sometimes, but in this movie, I do really like it.
Yeah, because like some movies, when they do like the start with the end and then flashback to the beginning and blah, 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 like the ending, just the starting with the end gives away a lot of information. But with this, it's just, there's no information. It's just a cool visual.
Yeah. It seems like so Gaspar Noé, typical him. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like just showing us something random from his movie because it looks cool.
Yeah. And it's like, it's such a good hook because I don't know anything about this girl. I don't know anything about where she is. And like, I don't know why she's freaking out. At the end, I know why she's freaking out.
Yeah.
Many things have led up to this freak out.
Yeah. Every time I watch this, I watch the end scene, I watch the beginning scene after the end. I love it.
Yeah. When we watched it this last time, I think Naomi replayed it like 3 different times.
And another part we replayed 3 different times.
We replayed like more than 3 different times.
At least 10 probably.
Yeah. When Selva starts yelling at the Nazi. David. Ugh. It's so...
That part is so good.
It's so cunt.
It reminds me of that video where that girl is getting interviewed on the street and then she just doesn't want to answer the question until she just screams into the microphone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm probably like playing it over and over again on the screen right now.
Yeah.
And I think, I know what you're talking about. It is such a good moment. Especially because of like how close she gets to him with that scream.
Yeah. I think I put it as the thumbnail too. I already made the thumbnail.
Oh my God. Love. Yeah, it's such a "you're eating my face" moment, and I'm obsessed.
You're eating my face.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Love. Naomi just showed me the thumbnail. If you are listening at home, look at the screen, and it's probably on screen right now.
So I actually really like how the sections are blocked off. I know Celeste has some issues with the pacing of it, but I love every single section, and I think they're almost all equal. I agree that the long talking scene where they're all at the party talking is kind of the worst part, but I don't think it's bad by any means. And I think every single scene is so different, and I love the dance scenes so much, like the overhead dance scenes. Obviously they're so talented, that's why they were casted. And the beginning dance scene was so good too. And I think it's cool that they centered the blonde girl who ends up being the one who spiked the LSD. I just think that's a cool little Easter egg, I guess.
I don't know why, but every single time I watch the opening dance scene and then she just strips down to this bikini, it is like...
And she walks.
Yeah, it is absurdly funny in a way I can't describe. Like, I will never be able to explain to you why that's funny, but it is. It's really funny.
And then her in the beginning be like, I had to move from Berlin because there's too much drugs there.
Yeah, there's too much drugs in Berlin.
My roommate started putting eye drops in his eyes with drugs. Yeah, it was so weird.
To like spike the
LSD and then put LSD eye drops in the morning after everyone's like dead on the floor.
She's so goofy. Like the police busting into the school and she's just like sitting there
still dancing her little crazy dance. Okay, so moving on to some shock value stuff, because that is what Gaspar Noé is most known for, especially with his movie Irreversible, which I hated. He's known as someone who uses like a modern day shock value. I don't know how to feel, because I feel like it just doesn't have the same effect or like punch that it used to, because everyone is so desensitized. But I mean, some of his stuff in this movie has like made people really hate it, which I understand.
In Climax?
Yeah.
Like what?
The pregnancy stuff, the sibling stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I always forget the most traumatizing parts of this movie because like I think it's just really pretty.
Okay.
Do you not agree?
No, I can't forget that stuff. I mean, it was like hard to watch the first time I watched it. And also Tito's like death, that was really sad at the end.
That was really sad. And
like that actually shocked me that they just like showed him dead at the end.
Yeah, it's like such a morbid humor. I don't think that part is humorous. No, I think Gaspar thinks that this movie is funny.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, he is very twisted, sick individual, so possibly.
But like those really uncomfortable bits are really uncomfortable. But I feel like he's like shooting in that with the intention of making it funny.
I don't think so. I think he uses like a lot of other elements to like elevate the shock in this. Like I feel like all this stuff we've seen in movies before, all the stuff that shocks people in this movie, in this one it just like is elevated, I feel like, just because of all the other stuff that's going on. I don't know how he does it, but it just feels more shocking to me, which is why I think people call him like the modern day, like I guess people compare him to John Waters and stuff like that, which is, I don't really see the comparison there, but I get like that they're the same amount of shocking to certain people. I don't know.
I feel like Gaspar is showing like very real and awful things, whereas John Waters is showing like the most absurd people do the worst things, and it's like
And John Waters is purely humorous.
Yeah, not one moment in John Waters do you believe that, like, you know, Divine is being a cannibal or whatever she does. She probably does that sometime. But like in this movie, when like the siblings are doing things,
yeah,
it's traumatizing.
It is traumatizing.
When the pregnant girl gets kicked in the stomach, like that's traumatizing.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that part, I totally get why people hate this movie, because it's like, it's almost like a gimmick to him, I feel like, and he uses the same things over and over again in his movies. Like there's incest in some of his other movies too.
Yeah, I feel like it's less of a gimmick here because I don't think it indulges that hard in these very
That's what I'm saying.
things.
Like this one I feel like is so different from all his other movies.
Yeah, it's more respectful of this, because after she gets kicked in the stomach, we just like, it's not played off for anything. Like it's played off for what it is, awful.
Yeah. And it feels like just like a gut punch to watch too.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy.
And it doesn't go into like gratuitous detail with the siblings, which is, I appreciate that.
And it does do that in Enter the Void. So
yeah, so don't watch that movie, maybe.
And it's also like at least 3 hours, I think.
Ew.
Yeah.
God, Gaspar, get a grip.
Yeah, I think just the technical elements that he uses as well just add to the shock value in his movies. And I think he does deserve like the title of modern day like shock value person, I guess. But I don't know if I like fully see that still being a thing in modern day. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel
it doesn't have the same effect.
Yeah, shock value in the modern day, I definitely don't think has the same effect, because, you know, one of the most shocking things in recent times was when Pixar decided to put lesbians in the Buzz Lightyear movie. And like, that's not shocking. But for some reason, its cultural impact and its cultural shock was so much more than, you know, these actual shocking events.
Yeah. And I think that's where like John Waters differs from him, because like the stuff he was doing was actually groundbreaking. It had never been seen before. And like gay people didn't have a voice back then. And like he kind of gave them that voice, I guess. This isn't like he's giving people who do incest voice. Like I don't know if I see it as the same type of thing.
Yeah, I feel like John Waters is almost like a satire of a lot of his movies. He's like a satire of normal American life, whereas in this movie it's just awful thing.
Yeah,
awful thing.
And I think that's kind of why I love John Waters and dislike most of Gaspar's other movies. But yeah, I think Karsten Runquist does a really great video on like Gaspar's tropes in general. His video is great. He also talks about, one of my favorite things about his movies is like that he just takes the control away from people. I think that's such a smart way to put it. Like every movie of his is like taking the control away from someone and like just seeing how they react to that. But I think this one works a lot better because it feels like there's intention behind it, and he's actually getting across a real message, like how crazy a party can get. I've heard him say that's what he wanted this movie to be about. And I don't know, I think it makes a lot more sense than his other movies. Like his other movies just feel like he was doing stuff to be edgy or just to shock people. But this one, I don't know, it's just different to me. I don't know why. I really disliked his other two movies that I've seen though.
Yeah, I think this movie, it has these like title cards interspersed like between each thing. And I can't remember what the first one was. It was something about life, but the last one was about like how death is a wonderful experience or something. And obviously he's not talking about death in like that literal sense, but I think I interpret it more as like these awful things can also bring positivity. Because, you know, at the end, there's that little sequence of like all of the effects of this LSD trip. And a lot of them are bad, but some of them still like turned out sweet, I guess, like with Daddy and the Twink. That's like a sweet little moment. Mm-hmm. And with Selva and Ice Spice, that's a sweet little moment. But with everything else, it's less sweet.
Yeah. Also, I think his other movies, the main problem I have with them is, like I said, they don't feel like they have as much intention with the way that they're being set up, I guess. The way they're set up is very smart. I'll give him that. Like, Enter the Void being like a first person thing about like the experience of death, it seems cool-ish. I don't know, I didn't find it that interesting, But Irreversible, I loved how smart that idea was, like reverse chronological order to show how time ruins everything. I think that's a genius idea, but I just hate what he did with it because, trigger warning, sexual assault. Like there's like a 10-minute rape scene, and if you took away like what he was trying to say about time ruins everything, like what is the underlying message this left? You know what I mean? Like it's just rape is bad. Like if you don't know that, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. A 10-minute rape scene is disgusting. Like there's no reason to include that.
And it's just like extremely brutal too, and just overly gratuitous. And I get it. He's trying to shock people. But like, I don't know.
I feel like you don't need to do that, because I feel the most shocking thing about this is what happens next. Like what happens after, this person survives this traumatizing event. That is the most shocking and like the most affecting part of it. And you almost don't even need to see the actual event that caused this, because you understand how ruined this person is by this experience. And so you don't need to understand how brutal it is by seeing it. You understand how brutal it is by seeing the aftermath, seeing the effects that it leaves on a person, how scarred people are from, what others do to them.
Well, you do see it after, but it is known as like the most brutal like rape scene ever in like a movie. And I don't know. I just don't see the purpose behind it. It doesn't feel purposeful like this movie.
Yeah. I've never seen it, and I don't think I ever will.
I mean, I think it's worth watching. I don't know.
That just seems like something I don't want to see.
It's like a small part of the movie, which is why I'm kind of like, okay. I mean, like you become infamous for this movie, but it's not even like the main focus. Do you know what I mean? Like it just takes away from everything you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have to say on like my opinions of Gaspar. I think this is his best movie. I don't know if he'll ever live up to it again, just because I don't like his other movies so far, but I think this is incredible. So let's talk about the characters a little bit.
So the characters really are like what drives this movie forward and what makes it so, I guess, enjoyable, because like, I don't know, you get to see them at their worst, which is funny. But you also get to see like them, I guess. And like this worst kind of reveals things about them.
Yeah, it's like a true colors type of thing.
Yeah, like with Dom, when she does the stomach kick, like that's the worst of this person. But it also like, it feels remorseless. And it feels like even if she wasn't, spiked on LSD, she would still maybe not do that, but I don't know.
I get what you're saying. And the like sibling thing too, like obviously that was there before. Like it was hinted at throughout the whole movie, even before they got like the LSD in their systems.
Yeah. And it just like this LSD allowed the worst of these people to shine through.
Exactly.
And I don't know. I don't know how I can like spin this to say that it was like fun, but I had a good time watching it most of the time. It was fun and it was funny and it was silly and also traumatizing.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that this is the best horror movie of the decade? That's my opinion. Like I can't think of a better horror movie that I've seen in the last like 10 years, or maybe even more.
It doesn't feel like a horror movie to me.
Oh, it totally does to me.
I think my view of like what this movie is way different than yours.
Yeah.
I think it is like a very dark comedy most of the time.
I don't know. I don't see it as a comedy at all. I don't think Gaspar does either, from the interviews I've seen of him.
Okay, maybe I'm just a sick and twisted individual.
You are. You're a sick person.
Yeah, like I can't help but see like when Selva screams in David's face, I can't help but see that as hilarious. When that girl like gets her head burned off.
Oh yeah,
like that's funny. I'm sorry, it's funny. When everyone calls that guy Daddy and Daddy puts the wig on, like that's funny.
That was funny. That part is so funny. I love him. So that's pretty much all we have to say. I love this movie. It's like one of my favorites of all time now at this point, and I think I'm gonna keep watching it like a lot.
It's really good, and it's really unfortunate that, you know, 2 of my favorite movies now are French, and I am embarrassed about that. But I mean, unfortunately, it is really good. French people
do be making bangers.
They did it again, unfortunately. I hate to say it. You know, I hate to say it.
I do. But yeah, that's all we have for you guys today. Please let us know your thoughts about Climax below. There's so many controversial opinions, and I'd love to hear yours. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Like, subscribe, comment.
Subscribe, and yeah, do all the things.
All right, bye guys.